Hi there, welcome back to the channel. So, it's been a minute since I made a Zoom video. I've been really busy and I was working on a song, as you can tell from the last time I made a video, and I was using my new Strat that I built because I wrote it for the song, and then I had some trouble with the nut and I decided to get a new bone nut cut, and that thing has been in a luthier for almost a month now, so that kind of waylaid that tune. But I've been working on other songs, and because I have these videos up, friends of the channel, subscribers whom I really appreciate your support. I appreciate you subscribing, because then we can build a community together and help one another. And so I got a message from a Paul Whitaker, a friend of the channel, a subscriber, and Paul mentioned that he noticed I was running the old version of the firmware. And guess what? About a year ago, Zoom comes in and updates the firmware that went from version 1.10 to version 1.13. So it's a new version, came out about a year ago, which is really cool because, I don't know, this unit's came out like over 10 years ago and they're still updating it. You know, currently, as of only a year ago, they've updated the firmware. So I'm excited to see what it does. I haven't been able to tell any difference yet, but there are little things that, you know, they get weird sometimes, and who knows, maybe the fidelity will improve. I have no idea. I'm assuming that it just works better, and some of the little strange glitches, like the glitch that happens when sometimes you hit stop and the wheel just spins and it doesn't ever reconcile and you kind of lose your work. That's happened to me a few times. Maybe that's been resolved, that little problem. Who knows? The point being is that it's important to be running your newest software, and I really appreciate people out there, you know, passing along information to me. Now I'm going to do the same. So I updated the firmware and it was rather simple, but there are a few steps to take, and it's the fact that there's a few steps to take is probably the reason I put it off, because someone else actually mentioned it earlier. I tried to find his name in the comments and it was a while back and I just couldn't dig it up. But I would also like to thank him or her as well. I'm not sure who that was that mentioned, hey, I noticed your firmware is backdated. You know, you would think if I'm making videos I'd actually be running current firmware. That would be helpful, especially if I'm trying to teach people something, you know, that I've learned. Okay, so it was rather easy to do it, but it is a few steps. And the first little disclaimer, there's one really important thing with any time you do firmware updates on the Zoom R24. Make sure that if you're doing it on an SD card that is filled with important material, let's say it's a record. In my case, this particular Transcend UHS SD card, which reads about 90 megabytes a second, it's 32 gigabytes, Transcend, it's a good card. I have an entire record on here, the 4 or 5 songs that I've recorded for my latest record, several live recordings, live show recordings, bits and pieces of songs, you know, that I don't want to lose, because I'll go back and go, oh wow, I forgot about that song. I can put that with this song, you know, this chorus can go with this verse or whatever. So I've got tons of stuff like that on there. It's just invaluable stuff I would hate to lose. So it made me nervous about doing the firmware on it. I needed a new card. I got the new card. So I put a brand new fresh card in before updating the firmware. If you do not have a fresh new card to use, and you've got a card that's filled with important stuff, just back it up first. So whatever you do, either a new card or backup, do something just so that you have peace of mind going in, because it is a process, and if something were to go wrong, you were to lose power or something crazy, you didn't have batteries in, or just a glitch happened, or your kid bumped it, or you bumped it, or whatever, that would really be a drag. So back your stuff up. I would hate to be responsible for giving you advice that would cause you that type of pain. That sucks. So be careful. I put a new card in to do mine, and when you put a new card in, you have to format it, and formatting is quite simple. All you have to do is you're going to go to the Tool button, and when you go down to Tool, you'll go to SD card, and when you hit SD card, you have 3 options. You can exchange, you can format, and you can remain. Remain just lets you know how much you have left on the card, and on this card, since it's new, it's got a ton. It should have, you know, it's got only used 6% of it so far. So it's got a ton. But to format it, you just hit the format button and then you hit yes. Now don't format it unless it's an empty card, and confirm that, because if you format a card that has information on it, the information will all be deleted in order to format it. So format a new SD card first or back up important information so that you don't lose it potentially in the firmware update. So that was done. Now, the first thing you have to do is to go get the firmware. So the first thing I did was I went over to the internet and I typed up Zoom R24 and I went to their site, and right away, and I'll put that link up, you can see that it says updating the firmware. So what you want to do is on the Zoom page here, they have documents, it says documents, R24 operational manual, and all that stuff is handy if you don't have any of it. Let's see, on the documents they have the operational manual, the audio interface manual. That could be handy if you're using Cubase or some other way where you've connected your Zoom and you're using it as an interface as well. It lets you know all the different compatible SD cards that you can get. Compatible application software that you can work with. That's all nice information. But the real action is here at the software button here. We got firmware, R24 system version 1.13 firmware, released 2/07/2020, so about a year ago. Really cool. And then they have different driver versions. They have the original driver versions. I have all that. It was this firmware that I wanted to upgrade. As Paul was mentioning, he'd noticed I was running the old stuff. So you click on that link, you hit OK, mine's going to be downloaded, and then you'll quickly see that, boom, it's right there. You've got a folder with a zip. I open the folder, and what do we have inside? Let's see what happened. Inside that folder are three things. Two PDF files that are irrelevant to the Zoom. They have good information in them, software version history, and it has a guide to how to do this, which I'll open in a second, and you'll want to use that to kind of walk yourself through it. Those two things are not important. As far as it operating, all you need is this R24 system bin, this bin extension here, and it looks like a zip file. You just drag that into your desktop. Onto your Zoom. So, first step, go to the Zoom, download the firmware. It's version 1.13. Once you have that in your download, right? Let me quit this and I'll go to the other video I made. This is the actual Zoom firmware. Now, you're going to take your Zoom, right? Make sure you've got your Zoom and you've got that SD card all formatted and everything's groovy, right? You're going to take your Zoom and your special little connector cable, which is just a USB cable with a normal USB end on one and a proprietary kind of Zoom end on the other. And I've seen this type of end. It's kind of common. I don't know why they do it that way. Maybe just so that it has a particular cable. Maybe it sends data out better this way. I have no idea. But anyway, you're going to connect your Zoom to your computer by going to USB. You go down to Reader, and then you'll see it communicate with the Zoom. Okay, once I can see that it's communicating with the Zoom, the way I'll know that is it pops up an icon on the screen. And so now we have our Zoom R24 icon, and you don't have to, you'll see project and system. If you open it up, you'll see those two things sitting there. Don't put it in there, it doesn't matter. All you're going to do is just drag that R24 system bin that you downloaded. You're going to just drag it over to the Zoom. Just drop it in. Now take that icon, drag it to the trash. Once you've dragged it to the trash, you come down in here. Let's see, am I in trash? Let me make sure, because I just connected it myself. Yeah, so I drag it to the trash, and sometimes it takes a minute to go away. It may be because my computer's old and slow. I'm going to be getting a new one soon. I'm going to go for this 16-inch. It's supposed to be like this 17-inch, but it's a 16. The screen's supposed to be the same. That's going to be amazing. So, I dragged it to the trash. I'm going to go exit on the machine, terminate, yes, I am sure. I hit yes, and then I wait, I just take my time, everything's good. Now, next step. So, you've done that, right? The next thing you're going to do, let's open that thing back up again and just read what it said to do. It's in here in the download, sorry. Okay, so what it told me to do, okay, that's the software version. Here's the firmware update. All right, here's what we're going to do. First things first, you copy the file for updating the firmware to the root directory of an SD card. We've already talked about that. You've already downloaded that file, right? It was a system bin zip file. You just drag that into the icon. That's sitting in there, right? Now you go to your Zoom. So you're going to be looking at your Zoom. I'm going to unplug all this because we don't need to use this. You're going to be looking at your Zoom, and I'm going to turn it off. Now, what you want to do is press down the play button. So you're going to hold down the play button and then turn it on. What you're going to see on the screen is this version up screen. It says version up, system 1.00 equals 1.01, 100 equals 1.00, system boot. Okay, and cancel. You don't want to turn off the power. Make sure you touch nothing. Once you hit that play button, you turn it on, stop and leave it alone, let it do its thing. It'll take a minute. Once you get the update that is, it'll let you know it's working. It'll say it's doing its thing, it's working. Do not unplug, don't touch it, step away. After it completes, it'll give you another prompt to let you know you can turn it off. So you turn it off. In the unlikely event that the firmware update should fail, follow the procedures from the beginning again to update the firmware. Mine worked immediately, popped right back up. It's now saying running version 1.13. Seems to be working fine and dandy. I really don't know what the improvements are. I'm just hoping that it'll run better, that there'll be less glitches and less little problems that arise. And I highly recommend doing this, and I'm glad that Paul mentioned it, because the last thing I want to be doing is making videos and then not even having my system updated. So that's good. I'm really glad that that happened today, and it gave me another video to make that hopefully will help someone out there that's in the same predicament and is not quite sure how to proceed. It's not hard to do, but it is a thing. And the main thing I want to close the video with is just reminding people to be careful with your data. I would hate to be, telling you to update your firmware and cause you to lose something. That would be a major drag. So anyway, good luck with your Zoom. I promise I'm either going to be recording a new song soon because I have a new one. That'll be the 5th song on this record. Or I'll be getting that guitar back any minute now. I'm waiting for the call. And then I will begin to lay down the guitar part and we'll continue our adventures with the Zoom. And if you have any questions about the Zoom, please don't hesitate to bug me about them, because it doesn't bother me at all. Back when I was trying to learn how to do hi-fi, I used to find some of these amazing guru gods. Man, these guys were like hi-fi masters that know everything about circuits and all kinds of crazy stuff, and they can tell you operating voltages off the top of their head and everything. It's unbelievable. And I used to drive these guys nuts, and I really did drive a couple of them nuts, asking them questions and calling them and messaging them and asking them for assistance with things. So I drove a lot of them crazy, but a lot of them were very nice and helpful and were willing to spread their knowledge. And that's what I want to do as well. That's really my main thing. I'm not sponsored by anyone. I have a very low subscriber count. I don't make any money or anything like that. I just want to document my projects and assist others so that we can all stay busy and creative and not feel like we're not able to do things because we can't go to a studio, or you can't afford it, or it's just not, the logistics aren't practical. So recording at home is what you're doing, and you need support, you need a community to work with, and that's what we should try to form together here and make our projects easier by working together. All right. Good luck on your Zoom projects. Good luck with everything, and I'll get back with you soon with the next project. All right, thanks.